Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel. And thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. Listen to this essay as you're going along in your car or your truck or on public transport. In this essay, I'd like to talk about there's quite a lot of stories doing the rounds now from the United States and elsewhere around the Western world, including Silicon Valley and places like that, where there's a lot of talk about large numbers of layoffs. Now, by large numbers, I'm not sure what they mean, but if you take like the whole of the Silicon Valley, if they shed 5,000 jobs in a month, I guess that's pretty significant, given typically they're hiring rather than laying people off. Now, the sort of people who are getting laid off are interesting. As best I can gather, they're being laid off from the nothing jobs, the bullshit jobs, the social justice jobs, the insanely bloated marketing departments, human resource departments, diversity departments, inclusion departments, and so on. That seems to be where the main source of job layoffs are. Some of these people are quite well paid. You know, there are diversity directors that are paid over $500,000 a year. So anyway, now this is these are areas that are very, not only are they bloated, as in thousands of employees not needed, but they're super top heavy with women, particularly snot-nosed, sort of valley girl talking, low IQ, sociology degree holding women, young women. And so now if you look at when Elon Musk took over Twitter, I think they had somewhere around 10 to 12,000 employees. Musk laid off 8,000 or 9,000 employees and nobody noticed they'd gone. I mean, you could reasonably ask, what were they doing? When you lay off, 75% of your workforce and nobody misses them or nobody knows what they were doing. And so this would suggest they had nothing jobs. And certainly the online social media vids that I saw were young girls, the sociology degree type, again, all talking valley girl speak, and who would sort of wander into work whenever they felt like they had a couple of meetings that were for nobody knows what, about nothing. There was no agenda, and so they wander in. They'd have a very nice, caramel latte or something like that from the very well appointed, staff amenities room. Then they'd wander into a meeting where they appeared to do nothing. Then they'd have to go to a room where they de-stressed because of, well, I don't know why they de-stressed. And then they'd thinking this was all normal. This is how the world is. Then they'd wander off to go to a staff amenities restaurant, which, from what I could see, was superbly well appointed with good quality, high nutrition value food. Wander off to another meeting, have a bit of a de-stress again, then wander out the door. So they've done no work for the whole day, consumed the company's coffee and food, attended a couple of meetings where their presence, the purpose of the meeting was unknown, their contribution was zero, and their purpose of being there was questionable. I mean, they didn't even seem to know. So there seem to be thousands of these employees sitting around in Silicon Valley. Some are almost like political commissars. They're there to attend the meeting to make sure that there's sufficient equity in the meeting or something. I don't even understand it. But anyway, there's the virtue signaling aspect of Silicon Valley and other businesses, which you've got to hire lots of low IQ women and girls to do these nothing bullshit social justice jobs, and they're sort of paid to maybe turn up sometimes for part of the day. Yet these women believe this is it. This is normal. This is how things are. This is how it should be. This is how it must be. And they would and did argue that no, we're adding real value. And well, how? Oh, sorry, stop asking difficult questions, you damn fascist Nazi. So anyway, Elon Musk lays off 75% of the total Twitter, now called X, of course, the Twitter workforce, and nobody knows they're gone. And so now that's gazillions of dollars of payroll that was cut there. And so it just goes to show how many Silicon Valley jobs, Twitter as an example, and Google would be, Facebook, how many jobs are created in marketing departments and HR departments and diversity departments that are nothing jobs. Now, I knew people that when the Soviet Union started relaxing, the communist Soviet Union started relaxing its migration policy, so you could leave the country if you wanted. They particularly sort of offered first dibs to Jews, Ukrainian Jews, Russian Jews, that sort of thing, to leave. But anyway, when these people came to the West, they were amazed at how efficient things were compared to the Soviet Union, the communist system. And one lady had a job as what was called an economist, but her job was like to fill out a raw material requisition form, one page, do that once a day, that they needed 100 bolts or 100 screws or nails or so she just filled that was it. So they had this, and they called that an economist. How they could call an economist is beyond me, but they did. And now the Soviet Union had a view that 100% of employment, so everybody had to consume, everybody had to work, because on the face of it, on a prima facie basis, that's an efficient economy. But it wasn't sort of really efficient at all, because so many jobs were created. In order to achieve full employment, jobs had to be created. A job that could be done by one person was subdivided into 10 jobs. So nobody really had anything to do. Now, one of the benefits as far as the state was concerned, while you're at work, because there were political commissars, undercover agents, all sorts of things, while you're at work, you could be surveilled, whereas it's much harder to do it in your own place. So while you're at work, you could be surveilled by the state and the state apparatchiks. But really, you had no work to do. The job you did was minor, and in the overall scheme of things, completely irrelevant. You actually did nothing. You were just really going through the motions and pretending. So it was a horribly and horrendously inefficient economy and workplace. Now, when the Berlin Wall came down and the Soviet Union collapsed, when West Germany merged again with East Germany, East Germany had hitherto been a communist state, the West Germans were quite sort of surprised, if not stunned and staggered, by the amount of inefficiency and waste and so on. And they were openly saying that between 50 and 75% of all the jobs in the East German economy, and this is they had a population at the time of about 20 million, that 50 to 75% of all the jobs are simply invented. They actually didn't exist. So you would have, as one German explained to me, you would have one broom in the cleaning department, but 10 people working there. So they could only one person could work at a time. And this was the same across, all areas. And there was one lathe in the factory, but it had 10 operators, but only one could operate it at a time. And so this was so when they started to look at the West Germans, started to look at these East German businesses, and state owned, of course, it was all communist owned. They realised that they just couldn't make these businesses viable in the way it was. The old equipment, the work practices, and all that sort of thing. They had to really start again from the ground up along lines of efficiency and economic returns and returns on investment and so on, which are, of course, very private sector. Now, as much as you may decry capitalism, as soon as you talk about returns on investment, these are the things, you automatically start to move to something that's more efficient than the communist system. And the communist system is meant to say, well, all outcomes are equal, therefore everybody has to have a job, everybody has to be paid the same, and this and that those sorts of things. Not that there weren't higher paid jobs, there were, but given that you didn't have access to any of the shops, and you couldn't buy, and other than the black market, you couldn't buy anything, then higher pay kind of meant nothing. But if you were an ideological apparatchik, so if you were a school teacher, turning out good communists through the school system, then you were considered more important than a doctor or even a scientist, because you were enabling the globalist, not the globalist, the communist, could be globalist actually, the communist project and the communist ideology, because you're enabling and supporting and furthering that. You were therefore then rewarded. Same as the globalists are today. Diversity director paid 2 or 3 times what an engineer is the engineer in charge of building the bridges paid. It shows that in the West we're going down that same ideological path as the communists went on. So I think the layoffs, as far as I can tell at least, I'm sure not all layoffs fall into this category, But the certainly by my experience going around looking at human resource departments and diversity departments and marketing departments and all administrative type departments where there's no pass or fail or results based system of either merit based gaining of employment or keeping jobs. Those areas are super bloated with women, all of whom have been radicalised through, or many of whom have been radicalised through the university and college system. So terrible inefficiency there. Similarly, the public service has been bloated out of all proportion in Australia to provide jobs for these unwanted, unneeded, unproductive migrants. So you get these entitled, self-indulgent Indians that arrive, no skills, nothing to offer, nothing at all, who can walk straight into a middle management job in the public service. So they think, oh fuck, here's proof that I'm a demigod. Hey, the Australian walk straight into a job. Those dumb Australians can't. But all these jobs are created. They're fantasy jobs, and they're being handed out. And these are the jobs I hope will go when reality starts to bite, and hopefully that'll be very soon. You've been with Tassless today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.